What's up, fam? More Cowbell, the Mississippi State podcast presented by SEC Country, coming to you from the beautiful SEC Country studios here in Dunwoody, Georgia. Such a lovely day outside. The construction crew across the way is hard at work, putting up another ugly building. On the other side, the parking lot is looking lovely. There goes Pete Scantleberry. You know Pete. We're going to have a guest on the show today. His name is Steve Petrella, also known as the Sheriff, and I'll probably never refer to him as that again. He's one of our, I don't know what he does here. All I know is he probably makes a lot more money than I do. So we'll talk to him. He is a diehard Penn State fan, and I'd like to talk to him about his perspective about Joe Moorhead and the job he has done the last week, what we can expect from Joe Moorhead, the new coach at Mississippi State University, and all of that. We'll talk about that. We'll have a bedtime story today. Frankly, friends, it's the best bedtime story that has ever been on the show. It is the most delusional Ole Miss article from an Ole Miss fan site I have ever seen in my life. It's written by Jim Shute. And you know, he's one of our favorites here, probably our favorite Ole Miss writer. And we'll check in with him. We'll have a good time with that. We'll have a shot of Jack today, as we'll have 3 Jack Crystal clips from bowl games. You'll hear the Gator Bowl. You'll hear the Snow Bowl, which I stupidly left out of my top 5 bowls yesterday. Why did you let me do that, Terp?
I don't know. That was pretty dumb, though.
I did top 5 bowls of my lifetime at Mississippi State, and I left out the Snow Bowl.
You did. That's definitely up
How
there.
stupid am I? That's embarrassing.
Who'd they play in that? I don't even know.
Texas A&M won 43-41 in the snow. You remember which bowl it was? It was the Independence Bowl.
Where is it played?
Shreveport, Louisiana. Yes.
I didn't know it snowed in Louisiana.
That's the point, Terp. It doesn't snow in Louisiana, but the fact that it snowed that night was interesting. All right, 131 people here. Let's see who all's here, and we'll check in. We'll get going in about 30 seconds to a minute. We'll bring in Mr. Petrella, the Penn State fan. We'll talk to him. They wore all white for the Independence Bowl. Yes, I think that was the first time we ever wore all white, if I'm not mistaken. We wore all white and played in a driving snowstorm. Dante Walker had a couple touchdowns. Wayne Matkin had a touchdown. Hello, Laurel, Mississippi. Hello, Starkville and Columbus. You can't decide which one you're in. Willie Harris, hello. Hello, Bonnie Williamson Gable down there in Gulf Breeze, Florida. Ripley, Mississippi is here up in Tippah County. Sure, it's lovely up there this time of day. Livingston, Alabama. I have no idea where that is. Yes, I do. That's where West Alabama is, right? University of West Alabama. Livingston, Alabama, population 7, maybe. Boynton Beach, Florida. Hail State from I-10. That seems dangerous, Mark West. Seems very dangerous. How about the Green Wave? Yes, Point City. Best team in the state. Another state championship ho-hum. That's what we do. That's what we do in Point City. Except for when I came through high school. We had I think we were 1-10 my senior year. I don't know. Something about guys that look like me just weren't very good at football. I don't know. Hello, Ocean Springs. Hello, Ocean Springs. 2 in a row. Are you guys together? Sebastopol, Mississippi. Houston, Texas. Denver, Colorado. Eddyville, Kentucky. Love Eddyville, Kentucky. Love it. You ever been there? Of course you've been there. It's Eddyville, Kentucky. All right. You ready?
Yes.
So I'm going to have Steve Petrella. He is an employee of this company, just like I am. We'll talk to him. He's a Penn State fan, and he is a can I call you a diehard Penn State fan? Diehard Penn State fan. I'm going to ask him how Penn State fans reacted to Joe Moorhead leaving. I'm going to ask him about whatever he saw. He's kind of a football expert. And then we'll talk about Joe Moorhead. Then we'll have a bedtime story, and we'll do a shot of Jack. We won't have a today's top 5 today because I'm doing a bedtime story instead. So I think that will sufficiently stand in. Oh, Branson, Missouri's here. Hello, Greg Dillon. You can never start a party until Branson, Missouri gets here. That's a rule. What do you think, Landshark? You good? Yeah, okay. All right, I'm ready. Let's go.
The More Cowbell Show, brought to you by SEC Country. And now, your host of the More Cowbell Show, Brandon Walker.
That's me, Brandon Walker. More Cowbell, the Mississippi State podcast presented by SEC Country. You are looking live here in the SEC Country studios. You're probably confused because there's two of us. And this handsome gentleman on the show today is me. And I'm on the show every single day. So this is Steve Petrella, Penn State super fan. I went from diehard fan to super fan. Yeah. So Steve does his own show. I've had the Wizard of Odds on our show before to talk about gambling and such and betting on sports, and you do that with him.
I do.
Do you specialize in the Big Ten games, stuff like that?
I do. Specialize is
it's a loose term.
Yeah, you're making a real leap of faith.
It's like saying I specialize in Mississippi State. I'm
right.
just the only guy here who would do it. So we're going to talk about Penn State. We're going to talk about Joe Moorhead. We're going to talk about what Penn State fans felt when Joe Moorhead left to go to Mississippi State. We'll talk about his offense, the way it changed when he got there. We'll talk about all that. First, let me go ahead and tell you we'll also have a bedtime story, and it's probably the greatest bedtime story in the history of the show. What I do is I take these Ole Miss fan blogs or whatever, and I read some because they just are ridiculous. And I read them as bedtime stories, as tales of fantasy and whatnot, and it's quite fun. And today is the greatest one I've ever read. It's by Jim Shute, and it is completely Star Wars oriented. It is completely Star Wars oriented. It is ridiculous. We'll also have a shot of Jack. 3 bowl game clips from Jack Crystal today to end the show. We won't have today's top 5 because we'll be doing the bedtime story. Very quickly, hey, more Cowbell listeners, you know that Hooters is your place for game day, but did you know Hooters now offers online ordering? In fact, they've teamed up with SEC Country to give you $5 off any order of $25 or more. It's simple to do. Just visit Hooters.com/to-go to place your order for the upcoming game. Make sure you use the promo code SECFans, that's one word, SECFans, to receive $5 off any order of $25 or more. Orders must be placed online. Now, we are approaching about a week since Joe Moorhead emerged as the guy. I think it was last Tuesday night about 9 o'clock Eastern time when it really got reported by Brett McMurphy or whoever reported it first. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. That Joe Moorhead would be the new coach of Mississippi State University. He had previously been the offensive coordinator at Penn State, where he made quite an impression in, 2 years?
2 years, yeah.
In 2 years, he made quite an impression at Penn State. He really took that offense a long way. So let me just ask you right now. This is Steve Petrella. He works here. I can't even guess your title. I don't know your title. Do you know your title?
Nope.
I just know you make significantly more money than I do. That's all I really know.
I get people to come to our website, I guess is my title.
That's
I
not much.
try.
We can come up with a better title than that.
Internet maker.
That's not very interesting at all. Anyway, we'll work on that later. You are a diehard Penn State fan.
Sure.
And we have a lot of fans in this office. We got a Maryland fan over there. How embarrassing is that? We got an Ole Miss graduate. I mean, come on over there. Let's see. What else we got out there? We got Baylor fans. We got TCU fans.
Yeah.
We got another Penn State
Syracuse.
fan. Where's Wayne, by the way? Wayne, the other Penn State fan.
He was fired this morning.
Good. Yeah. I never liked
Finally.
Wayne.
Yeah. He's probably at home listening to this podcast.
So you are a diehard Penn State fan. That is fair to say. What were Penn State fans' immediate reaction to losing offensive coordinator Joe Moorhead to Mississippi State?
I think the rational ones, which that number is dwindling, rational Penn State fans were expecting this and kind of, I don't want to say fine with it. You hate to lose somebody that's done all he's done for the program on offense and have to move on and figure things out. But I'm rooting for him. I mean, 2 years out of Joe Moorhead was all you could expect, especially for how good they were. I think having him for an extra year was just kind of an added bonus. I think the most interesting reactions were reactions from the rest of the conference. So if you look on some Michigan, Ohio State message boards, ecstatic that Joe Moorhead is out of the Big Ten because they were legitimately a little scared of him.
And we don't just wrecked Michigan this year, right?
He
wrecked them.
Wrecked them in a lot of different ways
killed them.
too. Dead.
Right.
And I think the most fun thing about that was Michigan's defensive coordinator Don Brown, kind of his opposite. They actually coached together at UConn almost 10 years ago, but kind of his defensive counterpart in the Big Ten, and Moorhead just absolutely carved them.
And Moorhead did a great job against Ohio State. Penn State lost that game, but what was it, 39-38, something like that?
Yeah, and the offense struggled a little bit in the second half. A lot to do with the offensive line, though. They hung 38 points against a good Ohio State defense, and the offense certainly wasn't the problem there.
So let me ask you, what was Penn State's offense like directly before Moorhead got there and directly after Moorhead got? He's only been there 2 years, so I guess we're still directly after he got here.
Right.
But what was the change like, I guess, is what I'm asking.
So when Franklin came in, Bill O'Brien had a pretty pro-style offense. Franklin came in, tried to run some spread concepts, and Christian Hackenberg, who was their quarterback at the time, he was a 5-star guy, committed, stayed with them through the sanctions, had a big arm, but he was a statue in the pocket. And they tried to sort of take some of these spread concepts and read concepts from Franklin's Vanderbilt offense, and it really just didn't work. He couldn't move. He couldn't read defenders, which was an even bigger problem.
Right.
And losing him, he left a year early, got taken by the Jets.
You're also a Jets fan, right?
Oh, God, yeah.
That's embarrassing.
Oh, it's terrible. Terrible. And he's like, Christian Hackenberg is so bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, they bring in this kid, Trace McSorley, who he's like 6 foot, nothing, 200 pounds. Turns out, actually, has a big arm. He can move. And what Moorhead brought was, I think they describe it as like West Coast in nature in passing with a ton of reads and then power running, like zone running, all snaps out of the shotgun. I think there'll probably be some similar concepts to what Dan Mullen's run in the last couple of years, and I think Moorhead will really utilize Nick Fitzgerald to his full ability, but that the read concept is the biggest thing. It's like simple concepts, and then McSorley had 10 options on every play. So things don't look that different, I think, on paper, but when the play actually breaks out, the options are there. And it took a little bit for McSorley to get going. It took about 6 games, and he even said in some interviews last year that he was sort of uncomfortable, and the more reps he had, both in practice and in games, he really started to understand the reads and just got better and better.
So when Moorhead got there, they had a quarterback that didn't fit his system at all. No. And once he weeded that out and he got McSorley in there. Now, McSorley, tell me about McSorley. Was he hyped coming into Penn State, or was he like a 2 or 3 star? Was he?
No.
Fitzgerald obviously wasn't hyped coming into Mississippi State. So give me McSorley against Fitzgerald real quick.
So McSorley, not hyped at all, but Franklin sort of had his guy. McSorley's committed to Vanderbilt. He's from Northern Virginia, but he was committed to Vanderbilt for about a year. Franklin's staff went to Penn State. McSorley jumped with him, so he wanted this guy. Not really hyped at all. I think people were excited to get rid of Hackenberg just because of how ineffective he was, but not particularly excited to replace him with McSorley. I don't think anybody knew a lot about him. And even a couple games into last season, there was a debate about whether him or this kid Tommy Stevens, who I think actually mirrors Fitzgerald a little bit more than McSorley, which one of them was going to play. But he's got a great arm. He can throw downfield. He's a decent runner. He's a little clumsy, I would say, but he seems to fall into 7 and 8 yards pretty often.
There was a play that was on Twitter right when Moorhead got hired. It was a read option where a bunch of people went to the right, and McSorley had a wide open lane to the left. I think he gained 12 yards, maybe, but he stumbled the entire time.
He stumbles a lot.
And it looked like, to me, that play looked like an automatic touchdown with Nick Fitzgerald. Like that play, if you give him that lane, that's a touchdown. I think he's coming into a situation, you said when he came to Penn State, Hackenberg didn't fit his system, but it seems like Fitzgerald is going to fit his system. Yeah. And then you got Keaton Thompson, who is exactly like Fitzgerald, coming behind him. He's a true freshman. So it looks like Mullen left Joe Moorhead with more to work with offensively than he was given at Penn State. Is that fair to say?
Besides Saquon Barkley, which is an outlier. I think so. I mean, they had some talent at the skill positions, but the offensive line was, and still is, a disaster. And I think what his sort of philosophy is, if you can't block them, read them. Right. And they do that a lot. They do that a lot with the safety, which I think is interesting, and that sort of opens up a ton downfield. And McSorley, the biggest thing he improved on was accuracy downfield, so he could get the ball to the boundary outside 25 yards down the field effectively. If Fitzgerald can do that, this offense is going to be...
I don't know about that.
We'll
have to see.
I know.
We'll have to see.
But if he can, this offense is going to be scary.
So the philosophy is to always read, then?
Read.
That's opposite of my philosophy.
Read.
Never read.
Never read. I can't read.
I can't either. That's why we're here, right?
Right. Just talk.
So Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was a Heisman contender this year. Obviously, he has a lot of talent. Is this a case of otherworldly talent, or was he also helped along by Moorhead? Possibly a little bit of both. I don't know. What do you think?
So, if you asked this question at the beginning of the year, I think the answer is much different from now. I think you'd actually find a lot of Penn State fans, not a lot, there's probably a small group that think Moorhead misused Barkley a little bit. He unveiled this like masterful game plan against Michigan, like we talked about. They flipped McSorley and Barkley. They did some direct snaps to him where he was reading the play with McSorley as his back. They got the ball to him in space a lot against Iowa, and then in the losses to Ohio State and Michigan State, they didn't get him enough touches, and they couldn't find a way to unveil similar or even better and new concepts. It seemed like they kind of used them all up in the Michigan game. So the offensive line was bad. Maybe they should have had him touch the ball more, but I mean, downfield passing was always open. Like, teams were stacking the box, and McSorley was carving him up downfield. So I think his work with McSorley is, if you're a Mississippi State fan, what you want to look at, what you want to study, because Barkley is a otherworldly talent, and Moorhead's concepts certainly opened up some things for him at times, but his talent, I would say, I'll give the slight edge to.
I'll tell you what excites me about Joe Moorhead in this offense, and we're talking to Steve Petrella. He works here somewhere in the building. He cleans the toilets. We are talking to Steve Petrella. He's a diehard Penn State fan, which, got a Penn State guy, got a State Penn guy. Everything's working out well.
We are.
Yeah. I never went to the penitentiary.
No?
My dad did.
It's lovely this time of year.
Yeah, my dad did, but he's out now. So Saquon Barkley was the number 13 running back in his class, in his recruiting class. Indulge me for a second as a State fan. Colin Hill is a freshman this year and looked very good, averaged over 6 yards a carry. He was number 14 guy in his class. Recruiting profile was very similar. He's explosive. Would State fans be crazy to think this guy, and I know you probably don't know a lot about Colin Hill. You do not.
I do not.
But is it crazy to think, because when Barkley was a freshman, people didn't think he would be what he is now, right?
No.
So is it crazy to think Moorhead could use Colin Hill as his Saquon Barkley in a year or two?
Sure. I mean, Barkley, you'll see the videos all over the place during the combine and lead up to the draft when he jumps, but the kid's a freak in the weight room. So he had a good freshman year.
So am I. So am I.
I think in a different way.
I'm a freak in the weight room.
But he got better from he was really good his freshman year, but I don't think anybody thought
this was coming.
Top 5 pick in the draft, Heisman Trophy contender. I don't think anybody thought this was coming. So I don't see any reason why a 4-star running back who averaged 6 yards a carry. And the offensive line Saquon Barkley has never had an offensive line that can
right now, State's offensive line is really good.
Right.
It was really good this year, and it should be good next year, only losing one guy. Now he is an All-American type tackle, but he was adequately replaced during the season when he missed 4 games. So the offensive line is really good. Now, a couple more questions. The last thing I want to talk about, offensive line's good. Penn State's offensive line was terrible. Right? We have no wide receivers on the team right now. Actually don't even have anybody that wears an 80 number. Nobody actually lines up outside. That's how bad the receiver position. Got a couple committed. Stephen Guidry's a 4-star JUCO guy. Malik Keith is a 4-star high school guy. So you got a couple committed that could come in, but right now have no wide receivers. Does that hamstring Moorhead in his first year, or can he work around it? What do you think, knowing that what you've seen?
So that's I think a problem just in sheer volume. So they always have 3 or 4 wide receivers on the field. They single back always, and they use the tight end.
That's similar to what Mullen did. Mullen was always a single back beside Fitzgerald, and would have 4 or 5 wide receivers on the field. They just wouldn't be able to catch the ball when thrown to them.
It's a problem.
That is an issue.
Penn State had talent at the skill positions. They lost a ton of scholarships from the Sandusky scandal, and they were still sort of recovering when Moorhead got there, and now they're finally back. But so they didn't have the depth, but they had the skill. I think that might limit him a little bit. But again, like I said, it's all about reads. It's all about getting guys open. I can't tell you how many times Penn State just had wide receivers wide open.
Really?
Yeah, there were guys that made great plays, obviously. In an offense that scored 43 points a game, you're going to make big plays, but open fields, spread you out, timing. There was just, it seemed like so much open field, especially later this year when teams started stacking the box against Barkley.
So let me ask you this. Penn State fan Steve Petrella works in the building somewhere. I believe he gets everybody coffee. So so let me ask you this. You are a diehard Penn State fan. I'm a diehard Mississippi State fan. That's why they let me do this. Also, I begged. I begged a lot. But so Joe Moorhead has been hired as the coach of Mississippi State. You see Tennessee out there trying to get a guy. You see Jimbo Fisher going to Texas A&M. You see all these recycled head coaches going to other places. Mississippi State kind of went outside the box and went outside the conference and got an offensive coordinator because they think he is the guy. They think he's a coaching genius. They think they've identified the next really good head coach. Scale of 1 to 10, how would you grade Mississippi State's hiring here, knowing that you're a Penn State fan, you've seen this guy up close? What do you think?
I give it an 8. I think with the 2 being what kind of recruiting and what kind of staffs you're going to have. And I love when teams go outside the molds, like especially in the SEC and the Big Ten. Don't hire Saban coordinators. Don't hire retreads. Look at the ACC. How many good coaches they hired 2 years ago, and different coaches with different offenses. So I'd give it an 8 because of the recruiting part.
So everything coaching-wise you think is a slam dunk.
Absolutely.
It's just the
and he will do more with less, sort of like Mullen did, I think, better than anybody they could have hired. If you read, like, SI did a long profile on Moorhead in the summer. It's basically talking about the facilities they had at Fordham and all that stuff and just how much he did with how little he had. And I think that's perfect for Mississippi State. So I absolutely love it. And I think Moorhead has sort of a weird trajectory. He was the offensive coordinator at UConn in 2009 when Randy Edsall was there, and they made the Fiesta Bowl. It was probably the best team UConn's ever had. And then
the only team UConn's ever had.
They don't even field a team anymore.
I don't think so. Hey, did you know that UConn's women's basketball team got beat last March by Mississippi State?
Oh, I thought they got beat by South Carolina.
They did not. It was Mississippi State. I'm very sure. Okay. And I'm very sure. And you're never coming back on this show. This is it.
But yeah, so Moorhead, he was at UConn in 2009, and if Randy Edsall brings him to Maryland, which he was an idiot not to, Moorhead is, assuming he has the same success he did at UConn, which he would have, he's an offensive coordinator at Maryland. He probably takes a better OC job from like 13 to 14.
And Randy Edsall wouldn't have gotten fired in 2 or 3
And Randy Edsall would probably be the head coach of Tennessee.
Right. It still might be.
It still might be. So him going back to Fordham was sort of weird timing. So I wouldn't get scared off by the fact that he doesn't have a lot of like big-time coaching experience. I think the fact that he was a head coach bodes really well for him. He basically bet on himself. He said, my offense is good enough to carve up the Big Ten. I will bet on myself. I'll take 2 years, and then I'll go get a head coaching job.
And it ended up being a smart move.
It did.
I mean, his first head coaching job at the FBS level is in the SEC.
Yeah.
And he's going to have Alabama on the schedule, LSU on the schedule. It's going to be a steep learning curve, but it is what it is. I am concerned that he looks like he's 60 years old.
That's the thing. He's 44. Right. And the fact that he's never been a head coach in the FBS and he looks like he's 60 is like,
what if the opposite happens? What if now that he's a head coach and he's got all this money coming in, he just starts looking younger, and like in a year he looks like you? What if that happened? That'd be weird, right?
Oh, would it be good for recruiting? I don't know.
Probably not.
Because recruits, you can't sell them on like, hey, I'll be here for 15 years. They'll be like, you're 80.
Right.
I don't want to come play. No, he's 44.
Yeah.
It's very concerning.
I didn't realize he was such a big guy. He's
also a very big guy.
He goes on these recruiting trips, and you see these recruits that you've talked yourself into, like they're 6'6" gods and everything, and they're all looking up to Moorhead. He's like a giant.
He is.
Yeah. So I don't know about that.
What don't you know about that? What's the problem?
I have no idea. I'm a big guy too, and
that's true.
And I know how useless big guys can be because I am one. Anyway, that's a good time to finish this. Thanks for coming on the show.
You got it, man. Anytime. I'm rooting for Mississippi State in the SEC. I really am.
So
I want to see Moorhead do well.
Next year, you are officially, that is your second team. That's your SEC team.
Yeah, Hawaii's not anymore.
Why would Hawaii be your second team?
I liked Colt Brennan like 12 years ago.
That was in 2007.
I know. June Jones was great. Mississippi State should hire June Jones.
June Jones is dead. He died 3 years ago.
No, he didn't.
I don't think he did.
Oprah Winfrey's dead. I'm sorry, Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg. Okay.
Yeah.
Oprah Winfrey was born in Mississippi, so do not bring that trash to this show.
Sorry.
So help me God. All right, that's Steve Petrella, Penn State expert. Thank you for being here. Turn his mic down while he does this garbage. All right, we're going to get right to the bedtime story. Terp, why don't you fire that music up? Oh, that's a weird one. We changed bedtime story music today?
Yes, the normal YouTube video is no longer on YouTube.
Just
you
cross it.
approved this
Just go.
one.
Just go, man.
You approved this song, so
I did. This is a xylophone?
yes.
So we do this every now and then. We do, as I scoot. Look how professional I am. We do this every now and then. And I got to be honest, when Ole Miss won the Egg Bowl, it kind of knocked me down a peg. I'm a State fan. Knocked me down a peg. So I stayed away from it for a while. But now the NCAA penalties are out, and they were underwhelming. I decided to check in on our friends at oldhottitoddy.com to see how they're handling the news. And they're handling it just fine. They are handling it just fine. I like to, every now and then, give you a fairy tale. I like to give you a fairy tale, a story of fantasy from the Ole Miss camp. And today's story, and I want you to get comfy, get ready to take a nice long slumber. Today's story comes for you from Jim Shute, and it is called Ole Miss Football, Master Luke, may the force be with you. Oh my God. That is my reaction to that title. We're going down the Star Wars wormhole about the Ole Miss football team written by Jim Shute. I literally couldn't be more excited right now. Here we go. When Matt Luke had the interim tag removed from being the Ole Miss head football coach on November 27th, he assumed not just being the leader of the Rebels, turn that music down a little bit. Now he's got to lead and unite the Rebel Nation against the evil empire known as the NCAA. The start of this story is so delicious I might not eat for a week. Matt Luke is now, in this story, Luke Skywalker, and he's leading the Rebels against the evil empire known as the NCAA. On December 1st, the NCAA Death Star, led by Mike Darth Sheridan, struck Ole Miss football with a vengeance. I guess the Empire struck back. 4 years of probation, a minimal fine, and losing only 13 scholarships is certainly easy to overcome. I agree with that. That wasn't much of a punishment. But then came the second strike with a second-year bowl ban that does not line up with the NCAA penalty matrix. Oh, my God. Well, you're right about one thing. None of this lines up with the penalty matrix. If they went by the penalty matrix, Ole Miss would be playing Class 3A football in MHSAA next year. They'd be playing Calhoun City in October. They wouldn't be playing in the SEC anymore. By doing that, the NCAA hopes that the football Star Wars Rebels would disperse to other schools, leaving the Rebels decimated with not enough players to compete in the rugged SEC. That's what the NCAA wanted. They wanted to strike the Star Wars base known as Oxford. That's where the NCAA underestimated the force of the Rebel faithful. Led by Ole Miss Athletic Director Ross Han Solo Bjork, a message was clearly communicated. A message was clearly communicated that we will fight the NCAA with all we have. The Committee on Infractions basically rubber stamped what Mike Darth Sheridan and his team recommended. That's where Sheridan and Jonathan Duncan of the NCAA, along with Greg Christopher on the Committee on Infractions, underestimated the will of the Rebel Nation. Ole Miss Chancellor Jeff Vitter and Ross Bjork were clear in the press conference that we will fight the unjust rulings of a second-year bowl ban and lack of institutional control. Put some on the screen, Landshark. Lost in all this is how former Ole Miss head coach Hugh Freeze basically walked away with just a scratch, being able to coach in 2018. I gotta admit, I'm floored by that too. Thanks, Landshark. I appreciate that. That's certainly a head-scratcher when it was well known that Freeze and Sheridan had an adversarial relationship at best. You could almost say their lightsabers were pointed at each other's throats. Ole Miss will appeal, and the facts will come out, particularly around Mississippi State's Leo Lewis. Oh, I wonder who Leo is. Who's a bad guy in Star Wars other than Darth Vader? Is Leo Lewis Kylo Ren? Is that who Leo Lewis is? I think he might be. Leo Lewis, who changed his story more than there are episodes of Star Wars. I'd just like to interject right now and put some reality in this. The Committee on Infractions, the NCAA investigative wing, they all found Leo Lewis's testimony credible. Anything you hear to the contrary is a lie. It's a falsehood. It's a hope. It's a wish. It's a new hope, if you will. Star Wars. The evidence refuting Leo's allegations are overwhelming, and even the Committee on Infractions were stunned by his inconsistencies. They never said that even once. Never even tried to say it. Never even came close to saying it. Only Ole Miss people said it. Despite Ole Miss and its lawyers presenting what they thought was a slam dunk case, the committee came back saying Leo Lewis was credible. What? You've got to be kidding. The question is why? Probably because he was credible and everything you said about him was a lie. Well, first of all, the COI rubber stamps the enforcement's recommendations most of the time while ignoring the facts. I feel like we've lost our Star Wars connection here. Now we're just rambling. In their eyes, you're guilty until proven innocent. It's been reported that investigators used unethical and some say illegal tactics to get what they wanted. It's been reported by Ole Miss fanboys. NCAA's Death Star is weakened. Remember, Darth Vader's weaknesses were protected by his soldiers, and I believe that the NCAA is protecting their investigators to keep their sham going. This is where the NCAA went wrong. We have found the weak point in the I can do this. We have found the weak point in the NCAA Death Star, and it will be exploited with the NCAA's corruption being exposed. Does this mean that the Rebel Rax guy is Obi-Wan Kenobi? The Rebel Rax lawsuit will play... Oh, it does! I was just kidding. The Rebel Rax lawsuit may play a huge role in this as well. Depositions can uncover a lot of unknown information, and that's something that will not end well for the NCAA, Leo Lewis, and others. Ole Miss, with the assistance of their law firms, will win this appeal. In my opinion, it's a slam dunk. You just said last week's defense was a slam dunk, and it got blocked. Now that leads to the current state of the Ole Miss football program. Seniors can transfer without penalty, and there will be a few, but not many that leave. Continuing on Star Wars, it looks like most of these guys are headed to Mars and headed out of town. Most will be looking for playing time. Other schools have been illegally contacting our underclassmen and are attempting to poach a talented roster. Oh my gosh. That's where oh my Lord. I'm about to read this sentence out loud. That's where Matt Luke is the Jedi rebel. He has the lightsaber to protect his team. The players love and respect him. If you have any questions about that, watch the video when Ross Bjork introduced him to the team. It will give you goosebumps. Matt Luke has red and blue blood, and he loves this university. He will unite this team and Ole Miss fans, and we will prove the NCAA and its evil empire wrong. Turn that music off. Oh, my Lord. Look at the delusion look at the delusion the NCAA just faced down. The NCAA didn't even hand out that harsh of a punishment. It was a disappointing punishment, and this guy went all Star Wars on us. What happened if it was 30 scholarships? Were we going Lord of the Rings? Did they need Harry Potter to bring his ass out there and bail him out? What would have happened if it had been 30 scholarships? Would you need Charlton Heston and the Ten Commandments to come out of somewhere? I don't know. Star Wars, that was delightful. That was the most incredible thing I've ever read. Somebody wrote that down and thought it was good. And there are Ole Miss fans reading that, nodding their head like, yep. You nailed it. Preach on, Jim. What in the hell world do we live in right now? What is going on? Chad Mask on Facebook Live says one of the problems was that Hugh Freeze was using his lightsaber a little too much. I love my Facebook Live people. Chad Mask, thank you. Let's go. Let's get back to reality. Jack Crystal, the greatest of all time. The greatest college football announcer of all time, unquestioned. I will not hear anything against that. Jack Crystal left us with many great memories. He was the voice of the Bulldogs for over 50 years. He was incredible. He was the man. Every now and then on this show, we like to celebrate Jack Crystal, and I'll give you a shot of Jack. Today's shot of Jack, we're going to go back in bowl game history. He did several bowl games. Let's go ahead and fire up clip number 1.
Michigan's gone to a 4-man front now as Ralph wants to throw on first down. He looks, he throws out of the backfield, completes it to Ladarius Perkins at the 20 to the 25, breaks a tackle to the 40, gets a block all the way down to the 40 to the 30. 2 men are chasing him. They're going to catch him at the 10, drop him at the 5. He fumbles it out of the rear of the end zone.
But he's down. When he fumbled the ball, he hit the turf, and that's when it came out. And Perkins, boy, he did a great job of getting through some tacklers, but he got an unbelievable.
Well, that is the Gator Bowl, obviously 2010. Ladarius Perkins, we've all seen that play in our mind on YouTube at the game 1,000 times. Ladarius Perkins goes, I think, 60 or 70 or 80 yards on a screen pass. The block at midfield was Brandon Heavens taking out 2 Michigan Wolverines. One of the best crackback blocks you'll ever see. Jack Crystal nailed that. Jack Crystal talking about, I guess that might have been his last. Was that his last game? Was that his last football game? Because I know later that year, I think he went ahead and stepped away. I'm not sure. Maybe you guys know that that was Jack Crystal's last game. I think, judging by time, it possibly was. No, maybe he did the 2011 season. I don't remember. But it was definitely a big-time game. It was definitely a big-time win for Mississippi State, and that play was crucial. And hearing Jack Crystal. Let's go ahead and hear Jack Crystal wrap that game up.
Adrian, good carry.
Yeah, Adrian Marcus did a good job that time. He had to get a little extra push, and Mississippi State won't give up the football. And you know they're just going to run the clock out, as you mentioned, and they're going to have a very, very satisfying
Listen to those cowbells.
End of the ball game. It's going to be quite a celebration by the Mississippi State bunch.
Listen to those cowbells.
Cowbells have been ringing throughout the day and continue to do so. They're dancing in the streets in Starkville. Not to mention Clarksdale and Biloxi and Vicksburg and some of the other cities.
And Belzoni.
Just an outstanding effort after a first quarter that was anybody's ball game. The Bulldogs have dominated the final 3 quarters of this one.
Russell hands it off again, and the plunge is straight ahead, and it's going to result in a gain of about 4 or 5 yards, and that should be the last play of the ball game. It's
Listen to that.
That's it. There's not going to be another play run. You can wrap this with my friend in maroon and white. Mississippi State has demolished the Michigan Wolverines by a score of 52-14 here this afternoon.
Wow. Beating Michigan, one of the great programs in college football history, 52-14. Did you hear those cowbells in Jacksonville? We'll be going back. I doubt they'll sound that loud this time because we were much more excited to go back then. That's another story for another day. But my goodness, did you hear those cowbells at that neutral site? I mean, they were dominating the background of that shot. They were dominating the background of that clip. Jack Crystal wrapping it in maroon and white. Everybody says that was his last game. So certainly that was the last time he ever wrapped it in maroon and white for a football game. I know he finished with Tennessee in basketball later that year. But wow, if that doesn't get you going, you don't need to be watching this. You don't need to be listening to this, because on this show, we celebrate Jack Crystal, we celebrate cowbells, we celebrate everything Mississippi State. And my God, that's awesome. One more bowl clip. Play it.
Bulldogs are going to go to the shotgun formation.
Snow Bowl.
They've got Justin Griffith in the backfield alongside Wayne Matkin. He's heading for the corner. Matkin's going to run it. Matkin gets to the end zone, scores! Matkin, ball scores, and the Bulldogs win the ball game in overtime, winning it 43-41. Wrap this one in Mississippi State maroon and white.
I love Jack Crystal so much. That was perfect. That clip right there is incredible. I don't want to overstep my bounds here, but it is my show. Terp, I'm going to do something I've never done. Play that one again, please. I want to hear that again.
Going to go to the shotgun formation. They've got Justin Griffith in the backfield alongside Wayne Matkin. He's heading for the corner. Matkin's going to run it. Matkin gets to the end zone, scores! Matkin, ball goes, and the Bulldogs win the ball game in overtime, winning it 43-41. Wrap this one in Mississippi State maroon and white.
Woo! His inflection when he goes up to say scores the way he did, I heard it so many times, but saying it right there, and just I remember the emotion of that moment. I was listening to that. I was not watching that on TV. I had to work that night. So I was listening to Mississippi State win that bowl game. I heard that live, and just incredible. Incredible. Just the emotion that comes back winning the Snow Bowl like that. It was just the Independence Bowl. It was just an 8-4 team, 7-5 team, whatever it was, but it was just winning that game in the snow with Jack Crystal calling it. It doesn't get any better than this. Jack Crystal's the greatest of all time. He is the greatest that ever did this. I will not hear anything to the contrary. Anybody that says somebody at Georgia or somebody at Tennessee, you're wrong. Jack Crystal's the greatest ever, and he was Mississippi State through and through, and so am I, and I love every bit of this. All right, on the podcast, I'm going to drop you off. Hope you're fired up. Hope you attack the rest of your day. Hope you can wrap your day in maroon and white. My name is Brandon Walker. You've been listening to More Cowbell, the Mississippi State podcast presented by SEC Country. That's the best thing we do. On this show, that is the best thing we do. We don't do it nearly enough. That is by far the best thing we do. I love that. I mean, that gets me going. That gets me going. How'd you guys like the bedtime story today? What'd you think of the bedtime story? Was that not the most ridiculous piece of garbage you've ever heard in your life?
So that wasn't like a parody. That
was a real thing. Somebody actually wrote that.
That's nuts.
I thought we had a good show today. What'd you think, Turp?
It was good.
Once we got through the Penn State guy.
Good. Yeah, the sheriff.
Yeah, once we got through Petrella.
Yeah,
that was fine.
That was good. That was
a good guy. I like him.
Long one. Sorry, 28.
The shot of Jack was good today. The bedtime story should have parodied Spaceballs, not Star Wars. I don't know what you even say to that. Like, what do you say to that? They still think Leo Lewis is like Darth Vader or Kylo Ren or whoever the bad guys are right now. I guess Dan Mullen would be that creepy guy. What's his name? Snoke? It's Dan Mullen. Is Dan Mullen still pulling the strings to this whole thing now that he's in Gainesville? I don't know. Has my hair been like this the whole time, Land Shark? You haven't told me?
Yeah, your hair's messed up.
You free? All right, Eric Lee, calm down. I needed multiple shots of Jack after that story. I think I need actual shots of real Jack after that story. I think I need actual whiskey to let that story go down. Who is Jared Mansour? I don't know. I'm not going to answer that on the air. Maybe catch me on Twitter for that one. Catch me on Twitter. 9/29/18. That's when Mississippi State plays Florida. So looking forward to that. Hey, did you see that Florida lost a 4-star offensive line recruit today? I'm shocked. I'm floored. I'm bamboozled. Actually, no, I'm not. I've seen this movie before. Mullen's angry about Maiden and pulling strings. I don't know why he's mad at I don't think Mullen's mad at us, is he? I think Mullen's probably going to flip Justin Fields from Georgia. That's what I think. Once Matt Corral flips to LSU soon, I think you're going to see Mullen possibly flip Justin Fields. But it doesn't matter. Who cares about Mullen? Who cares about Florida? It's raining in Nanawaya. Oh, no. I thought Nanawaya was going to win that state championship the other day, but they didn't. They had him. They had Simmons on the ropes. But they didn't finish it. Thank you, Pam Henderson. I love a shot of Jack. That just might get me through the day. Please do more of this. I wouldn't mind an entire show of great Jack calls. Well, that just means you guys like Jack Crystal and you don't really care about this show. I love Jack Crystal, too. We might do that. We might do that one day. One day I just don't show up and you just play Jack Crystal calls. Don't even do any commentary. Just play Jack Crystal calls. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. What?
She said Landshark said she'll fill in.
No. Landshark, you're never going to be on the show again. I'm sorry. First of all, some of the people didn't like having any tie to Ole Miss at all, even though you just went there. You're not really an Ole Miss fan, right? You just went there because you couldn't get into Georgia, right? So, defensive coordinator news. I have no defensive coordinator news. I don't know. I know there are about 6 names out there behind the scenes. I think he's down to a half dozen candidates, and we should know something very soon. I don't know. I don't have any news for you as to who it is. I don't have any news. Bryson Flippo says, come to the Dak side, Land Shark. You're a Dak Prescott fan, right? Of course you are. She's nodding her head vigorously. So is Terp. Both nodding their head vigorously.
Nope.
More shows, please. Well, I do one a day. I do one. What's 12:32? I went over. We had a long show today, didn't we?
Very long show.
That bedtime story was something else. It took forever.
Made it worth it.
But it was worth it. Can you imagine submitting that to your website and thinking you've done a good job? I'm going to start writing. I'm going to write this Moorhead saga, and I'm going to do it as a movie. What movie can I use? Caddyshack, maybe? No. Little Women? I don't know. We'll think of something. We'll think of some movie franchise. Power Rangers? What are you doing? You've got your hand raised.
What website was that on? I want to look at it.
It's oldhottieToddy.com.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. You're every time you type in oldhottieToddy.com to your browser, the browser says, "Are you sure?" And then you try to click on it again, it says, "Are you really sure?" The music made me sleepy. That's the point. That's the point. It's lullaby music. It's a bedtime story, right? Thank you, Ginger Tuck. Appreciate it. Top Gun. Top Gun. Oh, boy. Why can't Ole Miss just be the Sea Bears? They had to change it to Sharks. You're right about Fields, but Mullen Warning Maiden says a lot about our guy. I can't wait to see what Jomo does with our guys. Scarface is a good movie I could parody. How about something ridiculous? Like, could I do the Ole Miss story with them all being Care Bears? You're too young over there. You don't even know what Care Bears is, do you?
It's like a little toy, isn't it? A little bear. I don't know what Care Bears are. They're little bears. They're like different colors.
Rocky, Pulp Fiction. Now we're getting into some embarrassing places because there's a list of about 10 to 20 movies I've never seen and I need to see, and some of them are on this list. I've never seen Pulp Fiction. So I think my New Year's resolution this year is not to get in shape. It's not to be productive to society. It's to watch a bunch of movies like Roadhouse that I've never seen, Die Hard that I've never seen, Pulp Fiction. I've never seen any of those. So maybe that's my New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
Mullen won't flip Fields and Gator Nation will blow up on Mullins. Yeah, they're not going to like his recruiting. I don't know. Like, State fans didn't like his recruiting, but they were ultimately okay with it because he did develop. But I'm not sure Florida fans will accept that. We'll see. Blazing Saddles. Please say you have seen Top Gun. I can't do that, Glenn.
You haven't seen that either?
I've seen Hot Shots.
And why are you giving me crap about Christmas Vacation? You haven't seen any?
Because it's Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, but that's a seasonal movie. These are.
Are you telling me to wrap it up? Is she telling me to wrap it up?
She's telling you to wrap it up.
Why are you doing the finger wag? You're not Dikembe Mutombo.
She's doing the circle.
Oh,
like
okay.
the home run.
Dilly dilly, says Adam Harper.
Dilly.
Dilly dilly. All right. Good place to finish. Great show today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. We do it every day. We'll be back tomorrow. I think we'll have Neil Price on the show tomorrow. Neil Price, the voice of the Bulldogs, the current voice of the Bulldogs. We just paid tribute to the last one. We'll have the next one, the new voice of the Bulldogs, on tomorrow's show to talk about his first season at Mississippi State. It'll be fun. It'll be a good time. 10:45 Central Time for Facebook Live. Podcast will be out at noon, as it is every day. Until next time, my name is Brandon Walker. You've been watching more Cowbell, the Mississippi State podcast presented by SEC Country.